Let me go to Chip Roy. Hello, Chip. How are you, sir?
Glenn, how are you? Merry Christmas, brother.
Merry Christmas. This is our congressman from the great state of Texas. He is also a candidate for Texas Attorney General. Talk to me about your bill on immigration. Does it have a chance of even tell me what it is, and then I want to know if it has a chance of passing.
Sure. I mean, you opened this segment by talking about our need to focus on not just illegal immigration, but legal immigration. And I strongly believe that that is true. I think for way too long, we have been getting loose, fast and loose, overly corporate, overly driven by, your kind of Chamber of Commerce crowd. And all of a sudden, we've now got a situation where we have millions of people in our country that are not seeking to assimilate, not seeking to be the, quote, melting pot, but rather trying to kind of reestablish their cultures from other countries here rather than becoming fully American. And that's been a long string of decisions. And to go back and put it in perspective, we have 51.5 million foreign-born people here in the United States, the vast majority of whom did not come here illegally, right, but legally. And then they've been kind of abusing the process and the system because we've got this broad use of H-1B visas. We've got these things called diversity visas. We have chain migration where you've got everybody's cousin, uncle, aunt, whatever. And they're just growing the population here. And this is now unlike it was a century ago, right, when we had the mass migration in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. And at that point, we didn't have a welfare state. We had schools that were teaching that America was great and believe in the Constitution, and we had, God in the schools, and we had our culture being elevated, not being criticized. And at that point, we still froze immigration in the 1920s, right? We still flatlined it because everybody said, whoa, we've had so many people come in. And I think our country was stronger for it. Today, it's worse because we've got so many people coming here who are not assimilating. We have schools that are not teaching people that America's great. And we certainly are continuing to have a welfare state now that is causing a big problem. So I think we should pause it. It's called the Pause Act. We should pause legal immigration until we fix a lot of things. Fix diversity visas, fix chain migration, fix H-1B.
Wait, can you tell me what a diversity visa? What is a diversity visa? I don't even know if I know what that is.
Right. So the diversity visas, chain migration, these are all things that are being used currently to have expansive use of the ability of people to come into the country and say that they're, a family member, right, an extended individual through in what we call chain migration. So you'll have a person come in, and instead of it being a close-knit family member, right, instead of it being, okay, this is my spouse or this is my child, it's cousins and aunts and uncles and so forth. And, this is the kind of thing that we've got to reform, and including H-1B visas and including all of the problems we have here with birthright citizenship. Obviously, the Supreme Court is going to hear the Trump administration's, executive order on that, but we should codify a new view of how we deal with birthright citizenship. You should only be a citizen if you're born of citizen parent, not because you came and were on our dirt. So these are things that if you don't fix, or like Plyler v. Doe in Texas, right? We had a Supreme Court opinion in the 1980s that said we have to educate the children of illegal aliens, illegal alien children. We should challenge that, overturn it, and we should fix it. Until you fix all those things, fix the magnets, fix legal immigration, then we're going to lose our country. We're going to lose our culture. And I think we need to do that. So that's why I introduced the bill to pause it.
I just talked to a police officer day before yesterday. I was walking down the street going into a store for Christmas, and he said, "Hey, Glenn Beck." And he had this slight accent. I couldn't tell exactly what it was. And then eventually he said, "I'm Irish. I came from Ireland." He said, "I've been here for 20 years, but my wife and I were in Ireland." And I said, "My gosh, does Ireland even exist anymore?" And he said, "Glenn, it used to be," he said, "I go back every year." He said, "It used to be you could go anywhere and you'd have the Irish pub and, you'd see Irishmen everywhere. And yes, there were people from other parts of the world, et cetera, but it was Irish." He said, "I can go now into my hometowns, small ones." And he said, "I don't see another Irishman." He said, "The Irish culture is completely annihilated." He said, "It's all mosques and Pakistanis and whatever." And he said, is there ever anyone going to say, hey, wait a minute, the Irish culture, the American culture, the English culture, the whatever culture, that's important too. When is anybody going to step up and say, you know what, we don't want to lose this by embracing that. We can have both, but not like this.
Well, Glenn, and by the way, the thing I left out on the diversity piece is because I got up and I started talking about chain migration, but just so you know, right, that's a program very specifically designed to bring people in from countries that we don't have significant immigration from. It's literally designed to, quote, diversify our immigration population. So that's...
Who cares?
Right, and that's my point. And this is what's so wrong about our immigration system, and it's being done that way. In the SIV program from Afghanistan, all of it's been being abused, and we've had this mass migration. And again, you are an ardent defender of the First Amendment. So am I. You can believe what you want to believe, right? And we would never want to insert the federal government into your belief system, like between you and God. But what we have to remember about Islam is that it is a politically motivated group of individuals, right? This is when we look at the core and we look at what the Muslim Brotherhood is talking about, when you look at Sharia law, when you look at the tenets of Islam, then there is a massive political component to it. And we have to remember that. We have to remember and actually read the words, read what's being said, and go look at what's happening in Dallas. Like, Epic City is not just an accident. What's happening with the growth and the promotion of Sharia law in the United Kingdom, in France, now in America, it's not an accident, okay? And this is well beyond, hey, you can believe what you want to believe. You can be an atheist, an agnostic. You can be Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, right? We stand for that principle. But when you come here to annihilate and change our culture, then you've got to approach that. We Americans have to approach that in a different way. And I believe we should pause immigration. We should be doing what the president is doing, remove a whole lot of the people dumped into our country under Biden, illegal immigrants, asylum, that were abused, parole that was abused by Biden and Mayorkas, and go around and make sure that we're resetting the table and reset our laws. And we should just pause for a while and reclaim our American culture, to your point about what you just said about Ireland.
You laid out, I saw your press release, and you lay out what this bill would do. And I got to read this to the audience because I can't believe you actually have to say this. It would end the practice of automatic citizenship, end chain migration. That's not what the 14th Amendment says. That's not what it was about. That's not what it was written for. Anyway, and the H-1B visa program, got it. Ensure immigrant assimilation, got it. Now listen to these last three. This is what he's proposing we do. Okay, we're not doing it. He's proposing we do this. Deny entry to Sharia law adherents. Oh, I don't know. Yes. I can't believe we have to even say that out loud. Deny entry to Chinese Communist Party members. I don't know. Yes. And the third one, deny entry to terrorists. This is a civilization that is on a suicidal path. If that can't happen, it's crazy that that's not already happening. Suicide. Just committing suicide.
The other element to it that we must factor in is the welfare that is being doled out to non-citizens in the form of not just food stamps, Medicaid, all of the social programs from the federal government, but also our local schools and local hospitals that get inundated by people that are coming into the United States knowing that they'll get free health care, a free education, and they might be able to then use birthright citizenship to get a hook and come here and grow here. And none of this is about the melting pot. I mean, Glenn, that's what I'm trying to make the case here to people. When we had people who came here who largely shared our values, and when they came here, they wanted their kids to learn English. They wanted their kids to love America. They wanted their kids to understand our history and our founding. They appreciated what this country stood for. By the way, that mass migration occurred right after the Civil War. So our country had literally been at war. And people said, I want to go there. Because this country stood for something bigger and better. And people knew it. But they wanted to be a part of it. And they wanted to embrace it. They didn't want to change it. And that's not true now. right? That's definitively not true. When I have colleagues in the United States Congress, like Ilhan Omar, who are openly and outspokenly committed to changing America to be like her home country, that's a problem. That is what's happening. And if we don't recognize, you can't win a war that you don't acknowledge exists, Glenn. And there is a war being waged against our way of life and against our culture. So, look, I'm introducing legislation here, but it's also why I'm running for Attorney General, right? And I'm not going to go do a campaign speech here, but we've got to have states that are standing up and leading this fight as well if we're going to save America.
You brought up, there's a war being waged. Every alarm bell in me is going off. Every alarm bell in me. We're in a war. We won't even recognize it. I think the president has, but I think it's going to take a lot more than what we're doing right now. Look at what's happening in Europe. France just canceled their ball drop, for New Year's Eve. They have it at the Arc de Triomphe every year. They canceled it and said, just stay at home and watch a rerun of it from another year. That's insanity. They've just surrendered. How serious are we at preparing for a civilizational war?
Well, I think on the positive side, we have an increasing number of people in leadership who are understanding the threat in a way that they didn't a year ago or 5 years ago. That being said, we also have a long way to go and a very short time to get there, right? We have got to move quickly. If you see what's happening in Europe, right, and we go, well, they're 20 years ahead of us. I don't think that's true. I think Europe is a mere, months, years, few years ahead of us in terms of how bad it's gotten. And I think we're now realizing how much damage we've done over the last decade in particular, certainly the last 2 decades, in terms of the mass influx of people that do not ultimately share our values. So I do think it's important that we support the president on what he's doing and removing bad actors and making sure that we're removing people that need to be removed who are here illegally. But if we don't reform our legal immigration system immediately and pause it and freeze it and reset who we are as Americans and get people to understand that when you're here, you're going to embrace and being an American, then we're not going to save the country, right? So that's why I wanted to introduce this bill. It's why I'm going to introduce more. It's why I introduced separate legislation to vet people for Sharia law. It's why I introduced a bill to take away the tax status for care. Like, we've got to get people to realize that we need immediate change. Like, we can't wait. Right now, Congress, with all due respect, is not codifying or advancing the ball on this front yet. The president is doing it unilaterally, and I think that's a problem.
Can the House actually get it done? Are we going to pass it? Does it have a chance of ever getting to the president's desk?
Right now, we are socializing it, and there's a growing number of people who support the concept, and you see it not on social media. But we've got to get it socialized between the White House and the leadership in the House to get it to the point of trying to force a vote. There's going to be a lot of resistance, okay? There's a lot of people that are going to be listening to business interests, a lot of people who are going to say, well, I've got a group of a certain culture in my particular district and so forth. And we've got to rise above that and recognize if we don't do this, then we have no chance to save the country. Because if another 55,000 people come in on diversity visas this year, and another 55,000 come in next year, and then another 55,000 the following year, all from these supposed, low immigration countries for purposes of diversity, in addition to the chain migration, in addition to H-1B visas, like, do the math, see what's happening, and then how many kids they're having. And we've got to freeze that and reset what we want to do for our country.
All right. It's called the Pause Act. Get online, support Chip Roy and the Pause Act. Ask your congressmen, your senators to join with Chip on the Pause Act. Again, you can follow him on X at Chip Roy TX. He is also running for candidate for Attorney General. What is your website, Chip?
ChipRoy.com. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I appreciate it. And look, this Christmas season, just for everybody out there, Merry Christmas. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. We've got to keep our heads up and put our faith in Jesus and remember that it's upon us to pass this down to our kids and grandkids.
Thank you so much, Chip Roy.
Thank you for thinking for yourself and being part of a movement, because that's really what all of this is. If you want the full story, you want to go deeper, go to blazetv.com/Glenn. Go there right now, sign up, no interruptions, just the truth, uncensored and unfiltered. Don't just watch, take a stand. And I'll see you over there in a minute.